Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. As you know, we are studying very important chapter of NCERT, that is what? Life processes. In our previous lectures, we have already studied about the nutrition. Now we are going to talk about the second part, that is the respiration. Okay, so what is respiration? In general words, if we talk about the respiration, so generally we understand that when we intake oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. But according to science, actually the respiration is the process in which the energy is released by the oxidation of food. Clear? So let's talk about the respiration first. What is respiration? This is the process in which the oxidation of food is done and the energy is released. Okay, so what is respiration? The process by which energy is released from the food. Okay, so according to science, this is the actual definition of respiration. Fine. This respiration is very, very essential for all the living beings. Do you know why? Because as I told you that during the process of respiration, energy is released. Now, how the energy is released? When the food is oxidized and the energy is released in the form of ATP. Fine. So, what happens here? When the oxidation of food takes place, okay, and the energy is released, then this energy is utilized by the organism for the different activities. Thus, we can say respiration is essential for the living organism. Okay, so let me mention respiration is essential for living organisms as energy released during respiration is utilized by the organism for different activities. Okay, means thus we can say whatever the other processes are there, they all need energy to be act or to be done. So these energy is provided by the respiration only. Clear? Hope it is clear to you. So thus we can say what is respiration. Now forget it that only intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide is the respiration. Okay, respiration means oxidation of the food and then the release of energy. Fine. So what is the difference between breathing and respiration? Breathing is just to intake of oxygen from the environment and release of carbon dioxide in it. Okay, so here what is breathing and what is the difference between breathing and respiration? Breathing means intake of oxygen from the environment and release of carbon dioxide in it. Okay, so this is the mechanism of intake of oxygen from the environment and release of carbon dioxide in it. This process is known as breathing. But here we are talking about the respiration. So what is the respiration? Respiration is when you intake this oxygen. Okay, then this oxygen helps in breaking down of food, means oxidation of food, and then the carbon dioxide and energy is released. Okay, then that energy is utilized by the organism and carbon dioxide is released into the environment. Fine. So what is the respiration? Respiration takes following steps. What are they? When we intake oxygen, this oxygen used for oxidation of food. Okay, during oxidation or as a result of oxidation, during oxidation, carbon dioxide and energy is produced. Fine. So this is the process of respiration. Carbon dioxide is exhaled out by the body in the environment. Carbon dioxide is exhaled. Just a minute. Carbon dioxide is exhaled, okay, in the environment, and energy is used by the organism for activities, for different activities. Okay, so thus we can say this is the difference between breathing and respiration. Breathing is a simple process in which we intake the oxygen from the environment and release carbon dioxide in the environment. But whatever oxygen we are taking in, that is used to oxidize the food, and then only the carbon dioxide and energy is released. Okay, so this is the process of respiration. This is the difference between breathing and respiration. Okay, now respiration, if we talk about the respiration, then it completes into two phases. What are they? Respiration takes place into two phases. Okay, if we talk about the respiration, as I told you, respiration means oxidation of food and release of energy, okay, and carbon dioxide. So respiration completes into two phases. What are they? External respiration, okay, and internal respiration. So what is this external respiration? External respiration means when the organism takes carbon dioxide and when the organism takes oxygen and release carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But if we talk about the internal respiration, in this type of respiration, generally tissue cells take the oxygen and then they release the carbon dioxide. Okay, this is the difference between external respiration and internal respiration. So first of all, we will talk about external respiration. Okay, so here we can mention what is external respiration. External respiration means which is between the organism and the environment. Okay, the process of respiration between the organism and its environment. Okay, so if we must say that if the animal is aquatic, then it will take the oxygen from water, or if the animal is terrestrial, then it will take the oxygen from its environment, means from the atmosphere. Clear? So thus we can say that the respiration between the organism and its medium also. Fine. this is the external respiration. Internal respiration, when the tissue cells, the respiration, the process of respiration between the tissue cells and the environment. Okay. Internal respiration, internal respiration means when the process of respiration between tissue cells and extracellular environment. Okay, extracellular environment. Okay, so it is all about the respiration. So now hope it is clear to you. Respiration is not just taking in oxygen or releasing carbon dioxide. That process is known as breathing. But what is respiration? When the process of breathing means when we intake oxygen. In the breathing, we took the oxygen and released carbon dioxide. But when this oxygen enters inside the body, then it oxidizes the food and releases carbon dioxide and energy. That complete process is known as respiration. So in the simple words, we can say the process of releasing of energy from the oxidation of food, that is respiration. It completes into two phases. Generally, it takes two phases, external respiration and internal respiration. External means the process of respiration between the organism and its environment, and internal, the process of respiration between the tissue cells and the extracellular environment. Fine, this is all about the respiration. Fine, now we will talk about the types of respiration. What are the types of respiration? Next is types of respiration. Okay, so generally respiration is of two types, anaerobic and aerobic respiration. It is of two types, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. What is aerobic respiration? Aerobic means, here we can understand with the term aerobic means the respiration in which oxygen is required, means the respiration which is done in the presence of oxygen. And if we talk about anaerobic respiration, means just opposite, the process of respiration in which oxygen is not required or which is done in the absence of oxygen. Fine. So first of all, we will talk about the aerobic respiration, means it is done in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic respiration in the absence of oxygen. Clear? So this is the simple difference between the aerobic and anaerobic respiration. You can understand by the term itself. Now we will talk about them in the detail. What are they? Aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now we will talk about them in the details. So first of all, we will talk about aerobic respiration. First is aerobic respiration. It's very interesting to know about the aerobic respiration, as I told you that this process takes place in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so thus we can say this is the process in which the complete breakdown of food into the what? Carbon dioxide and water. And in this process, oxygen takes place, okay, and the energy is released in the form of ATP. Okay, so what is aerobic respiration? The process of complete breakdown of food, and the food is here glucose. Okay, so complete breakdown of food, that is glucose. The process of complete breakdown of food into carbon dioxide and water in the presence of oxygen. During this process, oxygen is utilized and the energy is released. Energy is released in the form of ATP, means adenosine triphosphate. Okay, we have already studied about ATP in the class 9th itself. Fine. Now, what is the actual equation about that? When the one molecule of glucose breaks down, let me mention, one molecule of glucose means C6H12O6. It breaks down and forms what? 2 molecules of pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Okay, 2 pyruvate or pyruvic acid. Fine. CH3COCOOH. Then this process takes place where? In the cytoplasm, and this process is known as glycolysis. Let me mention, this process takes place in the cytoplasm and this process is known as glycolysis. Okay, during this process, oxygen is not required at all and this process takes place into the cytoplasm. But when the pyruvic acid is formed, then this pyruvic acid enters into the mitochondria with the oxygen. Okay, and then this pyruvic acid is broken down and then it converts into the carbon dioxide and water, and that time energy is released in the form of ATP. Fine. So here this process takes place in the mitochondria. Okay, in the presence of oxygen. This process is also known as Krebs cycle. This process is also known as Krebs cycle. Clear? So, what is the result of this process? Carbon dioxide and energy is released. Okay? Fine. So, this is the complete process of glycolysis. Sorry, this is the complete process of aerobic respiration. So, what is aerobic respiration? When we intake the food, then when we intake when we intake oxygen, okay, then this glucose is broken down into the 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, and then in the presence of oxygen in the mitochondria, it converts into the what? Carbon dioxide, water and a great amount of energy. Here we can see 38 molecules of ATP are released. So thus we can say that the great amount of energy is released by this process of aerobic respiration. Clear? So hope it is clear to you. What is aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is the respiration in which in the presence of oxygen, glucose is completely break down into the carbon dioxide and water, and the great amount of energy is produced. Fine. So this is the complete equation of aerobic respiration. Okay. Now we will talk about anaerobic respiration. What happens in anaerobic respiration? Actually, as I told you that aerobic respiration requires oxygen, but anaerobic respiration does not require oxygen, means it takes place without oxygen. Okay, so next is anaerobic respiration. Okay, so if we talk about anaerobic respiration, means the process of respiration means the breakdown of food. But the point is to be noted here that in the aerobic respiration, the complete breakdown of food takes place. But here in the anaerobic respiration, as the oxygen is not present, it is done without the oxygen, then it is the partial breakdown of food, means it does not complete the breakdown of food. Fine. So here the process of respiration in which food does not, or we can mention that the process of respiration of incomplete oxidation, the process of respiration of incomplete oxidation of food. Okay, this process takes place without oxygen. Okay, so as I told you, this process takes place without oxygen, and this is, in this process the food does not oxidize completely. So in this process energy is reduced or energy is released in the less amount comparatively to the aerobic respiration, because there pyruvic acid, as we take glucose here. Okay, suppose we are taking glucose. So what is respiration? Means breakdown of glucose. So glucose will convert into the pyruvic acid. Okay, 2 molecules of pyruvate, and this process will again take place into the cytoplasm only, and known as glycolysis. But what happens, as I told you, in the aerobic respiration oxygen is present, but here oxygen is absent. So what will happen? It will not further oxidize because oxygen is absent. So this process takes place only in the cytoplasm and is known as glycolysis. Now this aerobic respiration completes in 2 processes. What are they? Alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. Okay, so first of all we will talk about alcoholic fermentation, and another is lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation. Okay, so as we are talking about that this process does not require, means anaerobic respiration does not require oxygen. Now what happens with it? So once this glucose is broken down into 2 molecules of pyruvate, then here in the alcoholic fermentation it will convert into ethyl alcohol because oxygen is absent here. Okay, so this process is known as alcoholic fermentation. Okay, first of all alcoholic fermentation. So in this alcoholic fermentation, glucose will break down into the 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, and then it will convert into the 2 molecules of ethyl alcohol, okay, or ethanol. 1 molecule of glucose means again C6H12O6. It will convert into the 2 molecules of pyruvic acid or pyruvate, Okay, so what are they? This process completes in the cytoplasm. And is known as glycolysis. Fine. Then it further converts into the two molecules. It breaks down and converts into the two molecules of ethanol. Okay. Fine. So this process does not occurs in the presence of oxygen, means the oxygen is absent here. So this pyruvic acid will convert only into the two molecules of ethanol. This process is known as alcoholic fermentation. Okay. So next it will release carbon dioxide as usual. As I told you, during the process of respiration, carbon dioxide is released. So it is forming in the alcoholic fermentation, it is forming two molecules of ethanol, and as well as it is releasing carbon dioxide and water and energy in the form of ATP. But the point to be noted here is, in the anaerobic respiration, less amount of energy is released compared to the aerobic respiration. Fine. So here we can see only the less amount of energy is released. Now next we will talk about the lactic acid formation. Fermentation. In this process, what happens generally, lactic acid fermentation takes place only in the muscles. Okay. What happens during the vigorous exercise, when the deficiency of oxygen is there, when the oxygen lacks there, okay, what happens that time, muscles form the lactic acid. Okay. So that process is known as lactic acid fermentation. So the process will be same, only the result is that the lactic acid will be formed. Okay. And then lactic acid will be formed, and this complete exercise, this complete action takes place in the muscles only. In the muscles, during the vigorous exercise, when there is the lack of oxygen, then the lactic acid is formed in the muscles. Okay. And it causes cramps in the muscles because oxygen is lacking there and the lactic acid is produced during the exercise. So this is the reason it causes cramps in the muscles, pain in the muscles. Fine. So this is all about the anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration means when the glucose is broken down into the pyruvic acid, and then this pyruvic acid in the presence of oxygen, okay, is broken down into the carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released. That complete process is known as aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, the process of respiration which is done without the oxygen, and the food does not oxidized completely, as well as the less amount of energy is produced during this process. Fine. So this is all about the respiration. Hope everything is clear to you. Thank you.